Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this problem that we have on the screen here, which is factor the expression 10x squared plus 15x minus 10, right? So let's go through this problem in a step-by-step manner. Okay, so our step 1 can be in orange, and step 1 says the following. It says, see if the terms have a common factor, right? So this is what I mean by terms having a common factor. Notice that the expression 10x squared plus 15x minus 10, this expression can also be written as 2 times 5x squared. 15 can be written as, let's say, 3 times 5x, right? Because 3 times 5 is 15. And then 10 can be written as, again, as we had initially, 2 times 5. So what's common between these three terms is the number 5. So I can pull the number 5 outside the bracket, right? And the rest of the stuff I can write inside my bracket, right? And so if I pull the 5 out from my first term, I'm going to be left with just 2x squared, right? If I pull the 5 from my second term, I'm going to be just left with 3x. If I pull the 5 from my third term, I'm going to be left with just -2, right? And this is the first step. So this is a step which sometimes we might need to skip because the terms might not have a common factor, right? So if the terms don't have a common factor, we can skip this step and move on to the second step, right? Okay, let's do our second step in pink. This is going to be a 3-step process, and this is going to be useful for many different types of quadratic equations and expressions, right? Okay, so step 2 is going to be find two numbers such that when we multiply them, we get A times C, right? But when we add them, we get B. Now this is going to be the most interesting part, right? But before we talk about this, I want to talk about the general form of a quadratic expression, right? So the general form of a quadratic expression looks something like this. Ax squared plus bx plus c, right? This is what the general form of a quadratic expression looks like. Now notice that in our step 1, we were able to remove the 5 and put that outside the bracket, right? So in step 2, the expression that we are most concerned about, the quadratic expression that we're concerned about is 2x squared plus 3x minus 2, right? This is what we're concerned about, right? We should be able to factor this, and that should help us to kind of factor the overall expression that we have, right? Okay, so in this quadratic, let me use my pointer here. So in this quadratic expression, let's identify A, B, and C, right? Looking at this, A is the term which is the number which is beside x squared, right? In this case, A is 2. B is the number beside x. In this case, that is 3. C is the constant term. In this case, that is -2, right? So let's write that down here, right? Let's do that here using a different color. Let's use maybe red here, right? So here, A is going to be equals to 2, right? And B is going to be equals to 3, and C is going to be equals to -2, right? So what does step 2 say? Step 2 says find two numbers such that when we multiply them, we get A times C, but when we add them, we get B, right? Okay, so let's first of all multiply A with C. And let me use pink again here. So when you multiply A with C, what do we get? We get 2 times -2, which is equals to -4, right? So now our job is to find factors of the number -4 such that when we add them, we get +3, right? Which is B. So we should get B, right? When we add those two factors. Let's look at some of the factors of the number -4. So obviously 4 and 1, and we also have 2 and 2, right? But when we multiply these numbers, we need to have -4, we should get -4, but when we add them, we should get +3. So how should we go about this? If I stick the negative sign with 4, I'll get -4 plus 1. -4 plus 1 is -3. But that's not the b value. Our b value here is 3, right? So what if I stick my negative sign with -1? So 4 times -1, that is -4. But +4, -1, that gives me 3. So this here works. 4 and -1, this works, right? So let me go ahead and highlight that in, let's say, this light blue color here. So these two factors work. Okay, so this is the extent of step 2. Step 2 is now done, right? So we found two numbers such that when we multiply them, we get A times C. When we add them, we get B, right? So we found those two numbers, and those two numbers are 4 and -1, because 4 times -1 is -4, and 4, +4, -1, that gives me +3, right? Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and work on step 3. Step 3 here. Okay, let's do this. So our step 3 is going to be our final step, and this step says replace B with the two factors with the two, let's say, two numbers found in step 2, and then factorize, right? That's step 3. So let's go ahead and do this. So from at the end of step 1, what is the expression that we had? The expression that we had from step 1 was 5 times 2x squared plus 3x minus 2, right? So step 3 says replace b with the two numbers found in step 2 and then factorize. Okay, so we have 2x squared. I'm supposed to replace this b, which is 3x in this case, right? The whole term is 3x, right? So I'm going to replace this with the two numbers that I found in step 2, which are 4 and -1, right? So I'm going to replace 3x with plus 4x and -1x, and then everything else remains the same, right? And notice that I haven't changed anything in this expression, because positive 4x, -1x, that still gives me back my 3x, right? So I'm not changing anything. I'm just writing this in a different way, which is going to make it easier for me to factorize this expression. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, let's move on. So the next step here is to start our factorization process, right? So let's look at these two terms here. and see what's common between them. Between the term 2x squared and 4x, what's common? The number 2x squared, so 2 can be written as 2 times 1, and 4 can be written as 2 times 2, right? So between 2x squared and 4x, of course, x is common, and we also have 2 common, right? So I can pull that 2 outside, and what do I need to multiply with this 2 to get 2x squared? Sorry, I can also pull one more thing because we said we also have x in common, right? So between 2x squared and 4x, what's common is 2 and also x. Let me do this in a different way. Okay, let me do this in a different way. So 2 can be written as 2 times 1, right? Which is 2 times 1x squared. And then 4 can be written as 2 times 2x, right? And then everything else remains the same, right? I've just added this one more step just to make sure that everything here is clear, right? So I have negative 1x minus 2, right? Now, between these yellow terms, what's common between them? I have 2 x's here in my first term, and in my second term, I have 1x. So x is common. And then I have one set of 2 in my first term, and in my second term, I have two 2's. So between these two, I have 1, 2 in common, right? So I can remove those terms and put those terms outside the bracket. What's common between these two? Let's go ahead and do that in our next step here. So this is going to be equals to 5. And then let me do this again in yellow. So we decided what's common is 2x. We put that 2x outside the bracket. And what do I need to multiply with 2x to get 2x squared? 2 times 1x squared. What do I need to multiply with 2x? I just need to multiply x with this. Okay, plus, now what do I need to multiply with 2x to get 2 times 2x? Just 2, right? Because what's missing with 2x is just 2, right? Okay, now let's just go ahead and copy and paste whatever we have inside this bracket here. Just directly copy and paste that here, x plus 2, right? And notice that I've left some space here, right? So I've left some space here. I did this on purpose because now I need to decide what number do I need to multiply with x to get negative 1x. And what I need to multiply with x to get negative 1x is just negative 1, right? Because negative 1x is just negative 1 times x. And notice that if I also multiply this negative 1 with this 2, I get negative 2. So it works out. Okay, let's go ahead and write this more neatly now. So I have 5, and I can group these terms now, right? So let me use my pointer here. So this 2x and this negative 1, I can write this in just one bracket. And because I have two sets of this, I can write this in another bracket, right? Okay, let's go ahead and do that here. So I have 2x minus 1, and then I have x plus 2. And this should be our final answer. This is the factored form of our original expression, which was 10x squared plus 15x minus 10. And again, this method is useful for a whole lot of quadratic equations and expressions.